Greetings, YouTube. Remarkable Republican here once again. I've spent the summer in intensive study, and it has occurred to me that as a public intellectual, it is my duty and responsibility as a citizen to put forward new ideas that will transform this country for the better. In the past, we've seen that privatization has been the source of American strength, and it has given us much of our advantages vis-a-vis other countries. So, the one thing that we haven't privatized, the one area where we're already dominant but could be that much more so, is in the military arena. When I was reading up on this, many libertarians even don't have the balls to attempt this. They don't sufficiently trust in the free market, or perhaps they just don't have a strong enough background in business or military affairs to really judge the issue. What I've done in this series is to lay out a complete case for why we should privatize the military and how. Tonight will be part one, where I show that there is a moral imperative for privatization when it comes to the military. So let's look at all of the reasons why a privatized military would make America great again, why it would truly fulfill Donald Trump's promise to make this country what it could be, to really fulfill all of America's potential for prosperity and strength. In the past, Americans have found themselves at moral crossroads, and while there was a road to ruin, there was also a road to recovery, and in the past we have always managed to find the road to recovery. My hope is that I am providing a moral blueprint for a road to recovery in this series. Right now, we see that Americans are increasingly immoral, irreligious, obese, lazy, and unwise. Very few Americans carry the economy or defend the nation. There aren't that many Americans who go on to be CEOs. There also aren't very many Americans, as percentage of the population, who actually defend the country as a member of the armed services. Patriotism is lacking in many areas of the country and in many aspects of American life, and there are also many demographic groups within the country, I won't bother naming them, you know who they are, who just don't have the kind of patriotism that one would expect of them. To spread a love of country, a love of God, and a love of the Constitution, more Americans must experience the American dream. They must participate in defending and bettering America. They must innovate and make profit. So, how do we get to that point? Before we get to the solution, let's elaborate on the problem. And the problem is a specific group of people, one of the demographics that I didn't quite get around to naming just a moment ago. In living memory, America has gone from being led by the greatest generation to the boomers and now by the millennials. And a better title for the millennials would actually be the worst generation, because they're everything the greatest generation was not, and I mean that in an entirely negative sense. America has been, in a broader historical sense, in a moral decline since about 1865, but with some periods of recovery that I mentioned earlier, such as the 1980s with Ronald Reagan. Only with the current generation do we see Americans really reduced to a level of morality that is third world. At this point, an American, as an individual, is no more likely to be a decent, good, or strong person than a foreigner. And that's something that we have not ever seen in our entire history. Usually when Americans were to, say, go to war, you could count on any one American soldier being better at soldiering than his counterpart in any other army. He was just better, more resourceful, tougher, stronger. Millennials now are the exact opposite of everything Americans have always been. They are more leftist and more atheistic than previous generations. We will expand upon that. And they also are completely tasteless and degenerate in their hobbies, activities, and also just what they do with their free time. Millennials don't have a sufficient respect for the flag, traditional values, or morality. Most millennials are SJWs. They don't really care what country they live in. They don't know anything about this country. And their morality includes things such as gay marriage. So that is obviously something that shows that they have strayed very far from the path. Right now, we have a problem. There is a standing federal army, and since most armies are composed of young people, this means we have a standing federal army composed of millennials. That's a dangerous thing. Since it is full of people who are open to leftist and atheistic values, these are also people who could potentially become foreign agents, and we don't know what could happen, but they could be a potentially revolutionary force which could both undermine the effectiveness of the military by demoralizing it, or else overthrow the government by force in some way. This is clearly something that we can't allow to stand. One of the problems, as I mentioned, with the current generation of millennials is the rise of atheism. The problem with atheism is that there is no basis for morality for atheists. The fear of God is at the heart of morality. Unless you fear your afterlife, you will not be a moral person. Atheists do not fear the afterlife. They think that everyone will be treated equally. The King James Version of the Bible is the ultimate source of all moral precepts, and it always has been. It always will be as well. This is something that is an indisputable fact. It cannot be gotten around. Without this document, we are lost. This document is as important as the Constitution, arguably more so, since that is what guides us in our private lives as well as our public lives. To reject God is to reject all that is good and holy. The only real religion of the atheist, insofar as they have one, is evolutionism. This tells them that they need to give all of their money and power to the government in order to fight a phantom menace, climate change. An atheist, because of his or her, there are only two genders by the way, lack of patriotism and lack of devotion to morality, cannot really be an American citizen. It's just not possible. And if you think about atheism, there's a common phrase that has been proven true over and over again. There are no atheists in foxholes. Keep that in mind. Leftist radicalism is a major problem, and it is undermining the morality of America. Democrats, one of the two major parties in this country, are spreading myths about global warming and using it to enrich con men and feed the state. I will grant you the Democrats have never been much good, but they have become worse over time. And at this point, their operatives are dominating the fake news. Every segment is either a hit piece against Donald Trump or something promoting one of the various communist candidates. The entire Democrat Party is now almost entirely socialist and communist. I use both words because there are people on the left who claim there's a difference, even though there's not. This is to appease your feelings in case you watch this video. Of course, I doubt there are too many leftists watching my videos, but if you are watching, stop being a leftist, stop supporting the commie and queer agenda, and know that socialist and communist are the same thing. Anyhow, SJW culture is ruining traditional American values. If there was a way for people to receive a proper education in being an American, they would not fall prey to leftist radicalism. So, what would the solution be? Well, we're getting there. To build on my point about leftist radicalism, I present you with the Squad. This group of women has emerged over the summer, and they are 4 anti-American congresswomen. All of them are Muslim, and all of them were born in other countries, who hate Israel and our president. They supposedly stand for other issues, but that is all I've ever heard them talk about. They are the leading propagandists of communism and Islam. They want communist policies and Islam as the national religion. Both of those things would completely destroy everything that is good about this country. The really disturbing thing is not that they exist. There have always been leftist wackos. I mean, Janine Garofalo was able to make a career, for fuck's sake. The difference here is that these women ran as leftist radicalists, they ran as Muslims, and they ran as communists. And they won. People knew what they were and voted for them. There must be a severe moral failing for these women to appeal to any voters. And I know that they're deeply unpopular, but the fact that they have any supporters at all is in itself deeply disturbing, and it means that there are people in this country whose minds have been thoroughly twisted by the Democrat Party and all of its various operatives and propagandists. Real men have become an endangered species. Men like myself and a few of my friends are no longer able to express our masculinity to its fullest extent. We're no longer able to act the way that we feel. We are, in other words, in the closet because of the rise of the gay agenda and leftist SJWs. They are trying to kill American manhood through the proven methods of Saul Alinsky and all of the kind of social media that they employ to shame men for being men. Being a man has become a borderline criminal offense. If some of the crazy Democrats who are running for president were to actually win, there's no telling what they might do. I can only imagine that someone like a Bernie Sanders would outlaw flexing your muscles in public or something like that. If you approach a woman and you are not completely subservient to her needs, you will be treated as if you are some kind of a predator. But the fact is, men defend and build nations. Men who are actually men, I mean. Masculine men. Men who do manly things. To reclaim American manhood, we must give men the opportunity to be men. They must be masculine. They must have the opportunity to participate, and they must not be frozen out of opportunities to exercise their true nature. We must be true to our nature. And to do that, we need an institution that will allow us free reign. I present to you a privatized military, the perfect solution for all of these moral quandaries. Now, allow me to speak from experience as a businessman who graduated from Vanderbilt's business school. Another source of our morality and another source of our strength is the free market, something that we've gotten way too far from in recent years, especially under Barack Hussein Obama. No force in human history is more democratic and free than the free market. That is simply a fact, and there is nothing that anyone could ever say which would refute that. Capitalism is the system which has built this country from the ground up since 1776. Look at what America was when it was just a collection of colonies and it was controlled by British feudalism. Now think about what it became after we ended that system and initiated capitalism in 1776. The difference is amazing. Our military is the world's greatest due to the innovations of free enterprise and competition. This allowed us to compare weapons that were made by different companies, and then those weapons would be compared and tested, and the military would take the one that was the better weapon. Other countries only had one solution because they had a socialist military. Our military has some socialist elements I'd like to eliminate, but what I'm showing is that we've seen in our own country that having capitalist elements within our military is effective. So why not go further and really reap all of the benefits of capitalism? So I don't mean to demean our troops. Our troops are great and brave, and I support them. Whenever I get a call to donate money to the troops, I always do it. However, we can still do better than what we have right now. There is a kind of socialism that applies for military members and veterans. Things like the VA and the way that military members get their health care is socialistic. When I heard about the VA scandal under Obama, for me the shocking thing was not that it was being handled improperly. It was a government agency, what else do you expect? But that there was a socialistic institution that was ruining the morality of our brave men and women in the military. This soldier socialism is government overreach, and it endangers the morality of the American public by sending a false message. That false message is that socialism in some cases is acceptable. It isn't. It is not the American way. If the military were fully privatized, everything about it would be improved, and improved drastically. The military must be reformed to operate within the principles and spirit of capitalism. It must be a private institution that serves the public good. I leave you with a final thought. The free market always delivers positive results. We can see that in any chart of economic growth in the US since the implementation of capitalism. Capitalism is, simply speaking, the best practice for running an economy. Every time we have privatized industries in the US and around the world, there have been improvements in every single category. FedEx is superior in every single way to the post office. There are a myriad of other examples in the United States. In Russia, the economy was stagnant when communists still ruled under the USRS. But once that broke up and Russia went its own way under Putin, they actually went with a somewhat free market system, and things have improved there, although they still have way too much communism and that is holding them back. But they have made progress. Private entities produce profits and improved results all the time. The reason is simple. Businessmen and entrepreneurs are people who value results, demand results, think hard, work hard, and get things done. They don't fuck around. They're not the kind of people who will accept mediocrity and failure. These are true Americans. They will break through the stale thinking of the past and come up with ways of doing things that are superior to what we're doing right now. Entrepreneurs who might take command of armies would prove themselves to be far better generals than people who have never thought outside of the box and take all of their military knowledge from a handbook. If the military follows the example of American business, it too will become more efficient and more effective. In following videos, I will lay out how this will be the case, and also how we actually implement a private military. I have a detailed plan, and I look forward to sharing it with you. This has been Remarkable Republican, as always, bringing you the truth with a truth-flavored bias, signing out.